Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, talk to relatives of famous people. My famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune. And a lot of people know that we grew up in the Myrtle Beach area. And in my process of growing up, man, I met so many families when I was younger and got to know that Myrtle Beach is an extremely great family vacation spot. People come from all over the world. They bring their families. There's 60 miles of beach to walk, to swim. You can surf. There's Broadway at the beach for entertainment. 30 plus mini golf courses with crazy volcanoes and alligators and windmills. And it is just an amazing place to have a family vacation. If you want to plan a family vacation in Myrtle Beach, be sure to visit myrtlebeach.com. They'll have all the great info and skinny on it. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com. And now, speaking of Myrtle Beach, my guest today is a Myrtle Beach native. I met him through a friend of a friend, and his daughter is Madison Iseman in the new Jumanji movie series. So today, let's welcome John Iseman.
Relatively Famous podcast with Chip White.
Hey, John, welcome to Relatively Famous.
Thank you, Chip.
So, John, tell me, our audience, well, me especially, about Madison.
Madison Iseman, that's an easy topic for me to discuss. She is my daughter, 27 years old, and is an upcoming movie star, or is a movie star, which I like to say. I get it all the time around town, playing golf, playing pickleball, wherever we are. Somebody would always say, "You are Madison's dad, correct?" And I would have to say yes. But she's just a normal 27-year-old trying to make it in the world. And she loves movies, and she's very talented in what she does. So we're very proud of her.
Awesome. Normally, a lot of this episode tends to be more about the guest. I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about Madison than normal in this because as a father versus me being a brother, you really have had the influence on your child where a brother just kind of like, hey, I'm over here, goofy. What was she like growing up, and kind of how did you become supportive in her dream?
Yeah, that's kind of an odd one. Yeah, I do see it from the father perspective. She's got a brother, too, that just actually, it's his birthday today. He's 30, and he lives out in Breckenridge, Colorado. So he would probably paint a totally different picture than what I and her mother would paint. But yeah, growing up, she was a normal kid, went to elementary school, middle school, high school, the whole deal. And when she got to Myrtle Beach High School, there wasn't a whole lot in the arts field here, and she's always been good at that, and she would do all the home movies and whatnot with her computer. And as it turned out, when she was in high school, she would be the instigator or the producer, so to speak. When everybody had a project that was due at school, she would be the one recording it, filming it, editing it, and all of that. And then she got into singing, self-taught guitar player, started singing at the church, started singing at the Monday night services, did I think it's called IMTA, the Modeling and Talent Agency that came here locally. She excelled in that, went to Charlotte and did some events with them. They took her to LA, and at that point she was 16, and she did a couple of monologues out at that show, and did some spontaneous acting scenes. And then we got a phone call saying that they just loved her, that she may have a career out there. And then her mother and I looked at each other and like, what the heck? And then we talked about it, prayed about it. And 2 weeks later, they packed up her Mini Cooper full of stuff and headed to LA.
Wow. It's kind of like Vanna's story. She kind of packed up and left.
Yeah.
My dad passed away a couple of years ago, but I remember when Vanna went off to college and stuff, him packing the car and us going, her moving to LA from Atlanta, this being proud, wanting to be supportive, wanting to be loving, but being terrified. I mean, your daughter's moving to Hollywood. What was it? How did you, as her father, kind of process all this?
It's one of those things where you want what's best for your kid, and who am I to dictate which way she goes? I mean, she was certainly very talented, and then she wanted to choose this path, and there was really nothing left. I don't want to say there's nothing left here in Myrtle Beach for her, but in terms of a career building move with the people that we talked to, Nancy Adele lives right down the street from us, who her mother and father did at that point. And we talked to a lot of people, prayed about it a whole lot, and we thought it was a good move. The funny thing is that when we sent her out there, or when she went out there with her mom, we were thinking, okay, maybe 3 months, 6 months, we'll give it a whirl. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, great too, then we'll come back. And then the funny thing is she went out there and met with a couple of managers and found this guy that they just hit it off. I mean, it was just boom. We knew it was a real deal. And he thought that she was going to be, a famous actress one day. So, we talked to him a bunch, and he kind of played along with thinking about the 3-month deal, kind of laughed to himself, knowing that it was going to be more than 3 months. So then a year and a half, 2 years later, once she turned 18, my wife flew back home and left her out there with some roommates, and everything just kind of fell right into place. And she lives outside of LA now in a nice community that is very family oriented. And at that point, she graduated high school. She finished up all of her high schooling, the 3 years in like a year and a half. And it's a high school that was very career-minded, that type of career-minded high school, that if you had auditions or you had productions and you needed to take off, you could take off, unlike the way it was here if you had things you had to do. So anyway, she did that, and the rest was history. And she got a couple of early gigs early on, made enough money to support herself, and we were happy. And then we talking about frequent flyer miles. I had so many frequent flyer miles in that 2 years and thereafter that I could have probably flown around the world 100 times, it seems like, for free. But yeah, we were back and forth. And then when they left me here with an 18-year-old soccer player here at the house. And then I think our house kind of turned into the fraternity house for a little bit until Susan came back home, and then everything went back to normal. So it was a run. It's a fun run, but it was a run.
Yeah. So Jumanji, probably, is that consider her biggest role, you think?
I would say so, just because of the popularity, and there were 2 of them. I mean, to me, I love all those guys. We got to know Jack Black pretty well. He's a real good friend of hers, and they still communicate back and forth now. So it's just, I still get really starstruck with these people, where she doesn't. She's like, they're just normal. They're just normal people. They're my friends. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I'm still starstruck. So we went to the premiere, and Jack came over with his little son. I think he was probably 11 or 12 years old at the time. And, I think he had and this is at the premiere, he had a Led Zeppelin t-shirt on with a black jacket. And his kid he's a normal kid, but, they're just doing normal family stuff. I'm like, wow, you don't think of these people as normal family people, but they are. They're just normal family doing their thing. So he sat down and talked with us for a long time. And he, of course, he really loved on Madison, and they were all taking really good care of her, and treating her like part of their family as well. So he was one of our first major people that we ran into and really got to know. And then we got to know some other people throughout her career too. Harry Connick Jr. is one of our favorite people. We still communicate with him often. So it's
awesome.
It's been really cool.
Cool. Yeah, I remember, Vanna's probably taking off and trying not to be, the starstruck guy. And we were at a New Year's Eve party at Alana Stewart, Rod Stewart's ex-wife's house, and there were a ton of people there, but Gene Kelly was there. And I remember going up and going, Mr. Kelly, I hate to bother you, but I'm a huge fan because I loved his movies and stuff. And he was super nice, sat and talked with me. And it kind of taught me, depending on where you are, to the conversation you're going to have with a celebrity. If you're at a party, you're obviously been invited, so it's an open. If you're at a premiere and your daughter's in it, you're going to get a little more little more love, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Madison's doing great. Tell me about John and Myrtle Beach and what you do or did, and what's life like for you?
Uh, it's just normal life for me. I'm a dentist. I just retired a year ago, just because my wife and I, we really like to travel, and opportunity to present itself where I could bring in another partner to take took my place. So we hit the road. We like to actually, when Madison goes on location, different places like Hawaii. We've been to Montreal. We've been to Budapest. We've been to. Sometimes Susan will go out there with her early. Sometimes stay, sometimes not. But we always get a couple of weeks in there. And she's real good about, I'm like, Maddie, why don't you get a 2-bedroom place instead of just a 1-bedroom place? She goes, I know you're going to come. I'm like, yeah, we are going to come. So that's really been cool because we love to travel. She does a lot of traveling just on location and whatnot. So we've got to experience some of the things through her and some locations through her that we wouldn't have done otherwise. So that's been cool. But yeah, I'm just a normal guy. I play a bunch of golf, got into pickleball recently, travel a bunch. My yard at the house looks really good. I'm a good tree shaper, things like that. Just normal dad stuff,
Cool.
old man stuff.
So we were playing pickleball for a while till we both got a little injured. It's supposed to be just fun for old people to move. Man, some of these kids who are stepping into an old people's game are way too competitive, man. It's like, dude, back off, man. I'm just trying to play.
We found that out too.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't need pickleball. You don't want to have pickleball drama, and there's some pickleball drama out there.
Oh man, it's crazy. Tree shaping. Have you ever been to Bishopville and seen a man named Pearl's topiary work?
No, is it awesome?
It's amazing backstory too. Google, I think it's a man named Pearl, but if you Google Pearl Bishopville topiary, this guy, it's an amazing story and what he's done with trees and shrubbery and stuff. It'll inspire you.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's it. I got a bunch of good tools now.
There you go. What took you into Myrtle Beach?
Oh
of all
gosh,
places?
I was born and raised in Rockingham, North Carolina, where the racetrack is, of course, and I went to Chapel Hill. I think I started there in 81. Oh yeah, I was there when Michael Jordan, we won the national championship. So me and Michael are the same age. So he would actually come around and play basketball at our fraternity house in the courtyard, and that was really cool. So anyway, I went to North Carolina, stayed there, and finished my dental program. So I was at UNC for 81 to 89, 8 straight years, and then I was dating Susan at the time. I met her down here in Cherry Grove during the summers where we used to work in restaurants and whatnot, up on your end. So we were trying to figure out where we wanted to live when I graduated because she could do anything. She had a business major. So we either want to live in the mountains and visit the beach or live at the beach and visit the mountains. So we really just had to pick. Didn't want to go back to my hometown. It's just a little small town. So we picked the beach and then we go to the mountains. So ever since then, we've been working here, and then we go on several big ski trips out west every year. Both my kids grew up on the mountain. That's probably why Jonathan just moved out to Breckenridge, because he likes it cold and he likes to backcountry ski or snowboard. And Madison's a good skier too. She usually gets some kind of crazy outfit to wear, which is kind of funny, I think. So live here, play there.
Excellent. Yeah,
it's a good
learned
plan.
to ski the first time at Beach Mountain, and then I moved out west. And I'm not a good skier. I love to snowboard. I don't do it as much as I did. But I remember when we moved back to North Carolina, my wife and I and our son drove up to Boone and I was going to show them the ski resort. And there's beach. And I said, no, it's not as bad as oh, wait, that's the top right there,
Yeah.
It's a lot different than out west and the powder and stuff.
Now, once you go out west, you're not coming back over here. We went to snowshoe with the church group with the kids, and Susan and I, and we're decent skiers. We went up to the top and probably made their hardest, longest run, and we were down in probably 30 seconds. Then you go out here on some of our normal runs, and it's 35 minutes before you get all the way down.
Yeah.
Big difference. It's fun.
I used to love, when we lived in L.A., we'd go to Whistler, one of my favorite places. If the snow's good, it's amazing. We were in Aspen a couple of years, as a matter of fact, right before COVID hit, and we went up on Ajax, and I was like, I took the lift halfway back down because I was exhausted, and it's all black diamond basically except for one path down. I'm like, yeah, I'm not quite that good, and I'm old, and it hurts.
Yeah, yeah. We're very tame skiers now, not like we were in the old days. That's for sure.
So in Myrtle Beach, again, you were there. What was it like getting started there? What was it like for your family, for Madison? Because I've got my stories, but I was 20 something years before you, or 30 years before you. So
Yeah, I mean, just normal business building. We came down here. I didn't buy a practice. I started a practice. We had a building that was already equipped for dental, but I had zero patients. And it's the old story about working hard, meeting people, and being nice to people, and doing the right thing, and treating people the way you would want to be treated. And that's kind of the way our kids grew up. You know, we're honest. We don't cheat. We don't steal. We don't lie. And if you can get through life doing those three qualities, or have those three qualities, people are going to be drawn to you. And if you treat them properly, they're going to stick around. So my wife, since she's a business girl, she ran the business then. So she would work the front and do all the books. Then I would do dentistry. And some of the funny stories we had where I would see one or two people a day. I'm going to backtrack. We got here in 89, in the end of July, 89. And then Hugo came, in September of 89. So I already didn't have any patients. And then when people would come in, they didn't have a house. I mean, they had no house, no car, no money, no anything. And I needed to work. So people would come in and they're like, hey, Dr. Iseman, I can't pay. And I'm like, it's all right. I said, you pay me when you can. So I worked for food. I worked for tomatoes were a big one. There's some farming going on, tomatoes and corn, because you got to eat. So we treated it that way. So a lot of times we would barter. A lot of times I would do it for free. But almost every single time when we treated somebody that was needy or needed to be treated that way, it came back and rewarded us fourfold. So it just pays to be good to people. So we did that. Then we built the practice up, here 35 years later. We're very successful here in Myrtle Beach. I built a new building back in the early 90s. It burned down in 2017, unfortunately. So now we rebuilt it. And so it's kind of the state-of-the-art facility now. So the young guys that are working my old practice now, just they are enjoying it. It's a good practice and a good place to go. So that's kind of my story. And I think the premise being treat people the way you want to be treated, and don't lie, cheat, or steal, and you'll be fine. And I think that carried through with Madison moving out to LA, which, LA, California is kind of a crazy place compared to South Carolina. But they were all drawn to her in that she had those qualities. And those aren't the qualities that you see in all of the other actors and actresses that are out there. She was just nice to people, and was appreciative of people and grateful to people. And I don't think they saw that a whole lot. So they were drawn to her immediately. And I think that's probably a little attributable to us and the way she was brought up, but more attributable to her realizing what you needed to do to be successful. And she's good at it.
I think it might be the water in South Carolina, because you got Vanna, you got Madison, you got Nancy O'Dell and Lisa Gibbons, all super nice Southern girls. They are who you see. And of course, parents had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, George Mims, my next door neighbor, he says he had a lot to do with it since he was in between Nancy and Madison.
Oh, there you go.
He said he takes full credit for both of them. Like, that's fair, George.
Well, that's funny. Scott Long said the same thing.
Yeah. But it's funny, whenever Madison would sing in church, I would look over, and April would be bawling. Now, April cries at the drop of a hat, but every time she would just walk up there, she would start bawling her eyes out. It's funny.
Oh, that's funny. I'm going to have to make sure April and Scott listen to this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In fact, that's how I found out about Madison being from Myrtle Beach, and who I should talk to was Scott Long suggested that you need to call John. He's funny.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. I've known him forever.
So then you got into pickleball. Are you? And we brief touched, but are you really one of those guys who like? Are you the super competitive guy on the court?
I'm competitive with everything, but I do it with a happy heart. Yeah, I'm not going to get mad at you. Now, we got some people that get kind of angry, and we just laugh it off. But, yeah, we're out there to have fun and sweat. Like right now, we played this morning, and the index was, 104 degrees. So we're dripping when we get done, but it's a good sweat.
Yeah, it's still a fun game. We need to
Yeah.
pick it back up. It's amazing how fast it grew. Um, what what is the future like for you in Myrtle Beach? Will you guys stay? Do you think you'll move to LA if Madison gets super famous and builds a giant mansion? Or are you going to just travel back and forth and visit?
Probably travel back and forth, but we told her we're up for anything if she builds me a good addition. I will be her pool boy. I'll be her cook. I will be her chauffeur. I'll be whatever she wants me to be. It's funny now because Jonathan was in Charleston until last year, my son.
Uh-huh.
But now that he's out in Colorado, it's a little different. We're kind of having to rethink a little bit of our final planning here, since they're both just a short plane ride away. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, our son's in Charleston, and now that we're in San Antonio, it's a lot different, man. Because neither one of the towns are easy to get in and out of. There's no like
No, you
flights
can't
and
fly
stuff.
to Myrtle Beach anywhere. It's impossible.
Yeah, now what does your son do?
He sells a platform that people who rent their properties use, and he's very successful in that. He was working with a couple of other companies in Charleston. Then he had a flood at his house, and he just packed up, said, I'm tired of Charleston, tired of the heat. I'm going to go out here and give it a whirl. I'm going to work on the mountain for a year. And I think his exact words, even if I spend every dime I made, I'm going to make it work. So he moved out there and spent every dime he had, made it work. And then he made it through the season. He snowboarded for 95 straight days starting in January.
Wow.
Made a whole bunch of friends out there and contacts, and then he hooked up with this other company that sells his platform that he was familiar with. So they hired him, and he's already managing a whole team of people out there now. So his goal was to get into this management position before snow season starts this year so that he can still board every day and manage his team every day. I'm like, well, as long as you got a plan, you can make it work.
Hey, that's a good goal. It's kind of like the surf shop owners.
He'll send FaceTime videos. He hikes up to the top of these mountains. It's holy cow. You're looking up there. He goes, Dad, I think you could do this. I'm looking down. I'm like, you can't even see. I said, there's no trail. He goes, no, there's no trails. You just kind of have to launch and land and see if you can make it down. I'm like, gosh, there's no way. No way. Yeah.
That's funny.
His mother won't even look at the videos.
That's funny. Him saying that to you. I remember when my son was smaller and we went out to Tahoe, and there's a bowl. It's kind of a glacier bowl, and we were both snowboarding, and he's probably, I don't know, 7, 8 or so. And I take him to the top to go down, and I look over the edge and go, what the heck have I done? How am I with my kid? Boom, he's gone. And now I'm going, how the heck am I going to get down?
Yeah.
And he's like,
That's
come on,
exactly
Dad.
right. He did the same thing with me last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, come on, you can make it. And I'm like, oh, way.
So as we kind of get close to the end, there's kind of a last question I ask everyone. Is there a question I didn't ask or something you wanted to share that we didn't talk about that you would like to get out?
No, I think we hit just about everything. There's always funny stories here and there.
Tell 'em.
Especially Madison. And she's an easy one to brag on because everything she does it perfectly. She would play in the church. I'm like, hey, and I was a big member of the church at the time, First Methodist down there. I'm like, hey, I can get you in. You want to go practice your song or whatever? She's like, no, I got it. And it's funny that, she'll walk down there carrying guitar, and she might look a little nervous, be a little nervous. And as soon as she gets on the stage, it's like a whole nother person shows up, and she just performs it perfectly. And I think that's the same thing that we've seen when we've been on set a few times. She'll sit back in the back reading lines, or in the trailer reading lines, and then once she puts her let's go hat on, it's like boom, it just clicks. And I've never seen anybody that can read a script or read a novel and retain it so well and just spit it right back out at you. It's crazy. But one funny thing that she did, she's good friends with Harry Connick Jr., and she was here at Christmas one time, and I'm kind of the silly guy, and I act silly and do kind of crazy things. But anyway, she's in the living room talking to somebody on her phone, FaceTiming. I thought it was just one of her friends. So I go by and do some kind of silly, quirky things. And then she goes, "Oh, here, Harry, say hey to my dad." And I'm like, you could have at least told me it was Harry Connick Jr. you're talking to. But yeah, she's really friended him. And it was kind of embarrassing, but he gets it. And I've met him several times. He's just a down to earth guy. He's got daughters, the same kind of thing. So we had a lot to share. So we had good conversations when we go out to eat and stuff like that. So it's that's fun. No, I'm very proud of her. I'm glad you asked me to be on here so I can brag about her. And like I say, it's an easy story for me to regurgitate there.
Now, is she getting more recognized when she comes home for visits when you guys go out in public? Or?
Everybody. Yeah. And everybody wants to come say hey. We'll go to the pool. And then when the little children come up, and she doesn't mind it, but then some of the teenagers and some of the moms will come by us. And a lot of them they're kind to say, does she mind if we come by and take pictures and stuff?
Yeah.
And she loves it when the little kids come by. And the one of the managers at the Dunes Club was there when she was little, and he's still working there. And he actually gave her a name tag years ago, which she still has it. So she wore his name tag up to go out to eat last time we were home. And he got a really big kick out of that she kept that little trinket that he gave to her when she was probably 10 years old. And I think that meant a whole lot to her. And it meant a lot to me too, knowing that a little teeny sentimental thing like that. And she realizes how special that can be to other people. And she's not going to steal that blessing by not having them a chance to express it with her. She's just a fun one to watch, man. She really is.
Well, hopefully I'll cross paths with her one day and I'll go, "Hey, aren't you John Iseman's daughter?"
Yeah, please do that, because she doesn't get that.
Yeah. Well, I always tell all my friends, like, if you ever see Vanna, go out and go, "Hey, aren't you Chip's sister?" A couple have done it, and she laughs.
For the golf tournament.
What's that?
All my friends were sending me pictures that she was here for the golf tournament.
Yeah, I was there.
And were you there too?
I played with her.
Nobody sent me pictures of you, unfortunately, Chip. But I got my buddies sent pictures of their wives playing and out there hanging out with Vanna.
Yeah, I probably had to take the picture. Yeah, I probably had to take the picture. Everybody's like, "Hey, will you take a picture of me and Vanna?" They hand me their camera. Hey, you know what? That tournament was awesome. I played in the Pro-Am with her, and I'm a horrible golfer. I mean, I'm horrible. Two things that day: I set a world record for the least amount of cussing I've ever done on a golf course. Because there was too many people around. And to play inside the ropes, dude, it's a whole nother thing. I hope I get invited to play some more somewhere, because it's awesome.
Yeah.
And to watch these guys.
It's another ball game when you're in there hitting and everybody's watching you.
Oh, man. Yeah. The first tee, I was like, please, God, just let me hit it. Just let me hit it at least semi-straight, Yeah. But, anyway, John, thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to remind our guests, Google Madison Iseman if you aren't sure, because she's a beautiful young lady and she's very talented, and you're going to hear more from her. And, next time we'll have her mom on, we'll get the different perspective. Thank you, John. It's an amazing story. Madison, I know, is going to go extremely far. You're a great dad, and I appreciate your time today. And, we talked a lot about Myrtle Beach in this, and you got to hear about how much of a great family vacation place it is. Go to visitmyrtlebeach.com to plan your family vacation in Myrtle Beach. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com, and I'm grateful for their support of this podcast. I'd like to thank Nelco Media for making this happen, Nelco Comics for the great location. I'd like to really, truly, and gratefully appreciate all the fans that listen, watch, share, comment, tell their friends and family. Help us build this little podcast into a worldwide famous podcast where then maybe people interview me as a relative.
Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.